Welcome, everybody, to the Neutral Zone Infraction Northwest podcast, episode 16. Got a special playoff episode for you guys. The Hawks are in the playoffs. We've known that for a while. The matchup is set. We've got the Detroit Lions Saturday night in our house. Should be a good one. So I'm going to break it down. That's all this episode is going to be, is me breaking down this matchup and, of course, picking games at the end, because wouldn't be this podcast, the Neutral Zone Infraction Northwest podcast, without some games being picked. But just so that I don't get accused of being a homer and, being too emotionally involved with my team, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you all the reasons why the Seahawks are not going to win on Saturday. Then I'm going to tell you all the reasons why they are. And then we'll make a final decision after that. I think you might be able to understand at this point what that final decision might be, but I won't give it away just in case maybe this is your first podcast and you don't know how I roll. So let's start with the reasons why we won't win. Unfortunately, there are quite a few. There are quite a few of those reasons. This team going into the playoffs is not a complete team, not as scary of a team as we have going into previous, playoff runs. We definitely have an ability to make a run, but there are some major flaws. And I'm going to break down a few of what those flaws are right now with reasons why we might not win. First, I'm going to go with the obvious one, shoddy offensive line play. Now, we've gone leaps and bounds, like it seems like we do every year. At the beginning of the year, our offensive line is pretty much atrocious. And that's been true for at least the last couple years. There have been some, guys that hold it together, but generally it's been bad. This year, it was the worst I've ever seen it, especially in the beginning of the year. Now, there have been some bright spots in the offensive line. Moving Justin Britt to center was an ingenious idea. I guess it's the last place that he could play. Drafted as a tackle, got moved to guard, got moved to center. And he's listed as a Pro Bowl alternate, so he's had a really good year. And then you got guys around. You got rookie and Jermaine Ifedi, who I think has the potential to be really good, and guys around that are still kind of learning how to be a cohesive team. Now, with that comes, you see the guys. You see the guys rushing around, sacking Russell Wilson all day long. Run blocking it's okay. It's like just one tick below okay. It's not horrendous. It's not bad. It's like, this is fine? ? So that's where we are with run. With pass blocking, it's bad. It's bad. And Russell Wilson's running for his life. And now that he is not as injured as he was, that's not as bad as it could have been early on in the season, but we definitely have those issues and have throughout the season. We put together some good games, but overall, this is where our offensive line is at. And the Lions, they've got some studs on that defensive line that could give us some problems. Really, the biggest one in my mind, of course, is Ziggy Ansah. He is a freak athlete. He's long, he's fast, he's mean. He is basically he's the guy that's going to give us some problems. Look to double team him, of course, and then hopefully limit the amount of disruption he can have against our offense. There are also other parts of that defense that are pretty good. The Darius Slay Jr., he's good. He's a good cornerback. Look for him to be probably on Doug Baldwin most of the time. And this is more of a reason why we would win, but the middle of their defense, the linebacking core, isn't as good as a lot of teams that we face and would face if we continued on in the playoffs, which sort of leaves it ripe for the picking to throw the ball to Jimmy Graham. If we could do that, that could be good for us. But no, I think that their defensive line against our offensive line could definitely cause some problems. Another reason why we might not win this game is just not managing time of possession well. in order to sort of manage time of possession, we have to be able to rush the ball. And we haven't shown a consistency as a team this year. In a pound the rock first team, those were the teams that went to the Super Bowl. Is those teams with Marshawn Lynch leading the way. He's doing it. And that's when we made deep playoff runs. And this team has not shown an ability to consistently run the ball. And a lot of it is on the offensive line, and a lot of it is on the running backs. I'd really love to see Thomas Rawls be able to get going in this game and build some momentum if we were to be able to win to take to the Falcons. That would be a best-case scenario. But I think that if we don't have an ability to rush the ball and they're sacking us left and right, like I mentioned with the poor offensive line play, then there's a potential for us to just not have the ball very much at all. We saw that in the Green Bay game that we played and just got beat up. And we saw that in Tampa Bay when we just got beat up. Like not being able to possess the ball and run offense and make their defense tired and our defense is exhausted. It's not a recipe for success. And it could definitely become a problem if we're not able to sort of run the ball effectively. And if we're not able to do it right away, we got to be able to stick with it and continue to try to use it while still trying to score in other ways. I mean, we gotta be able to call the right plays in the right situations to get us where we need to go. And that could definitely be a problem. Another problem that we could potentially face is our tendency to have really slow starts in these playoff games. We saw it with the NFC Championship game against the 49ers, the one that we won. We barely won. We saw it with the Green Bay NFC Championship game where we won by some miracle, some act of God. And we saw it with Carolina. We've been seeing it all season. These slow, sluggish starts where we just can't get it going in the first half. Like, there have been playoff games where we literally have scored 0 points in the first half. And there are some holes that we're able to dig out of, and there's some that we can't. Like a 30 or 20 whatever point deficit against the Carolina Panthers. We came on in the fourth quarter with our hairs on fire, and we still couldn't come back and win that game last year, the game that kicked us out of the playoffs, because we started too slow. It was too slow. And we made too many mistakes in the beginning to overcome. Now, the Seahawks mantra, the Seahawks way of thinking is it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And I'm all about that. That's awesome. I agree. You definitely win in the fourth quarter. But you got to show up. You got to show up to play in the first and second quarter. They can't just be like, we're going to spot you 20 points and see what happens, Detroit Lions. We're in our building. This will be fine. And it even happened to some extent against the 49ers last week. All of a sudden, I'm looking at my TV. It's 14-3. I'm like, the 49ers, dog? What's happening? So we ended up coming back and winning that game barely. And but it's really troubling to think about. And bottom line, this Detroit Lions game right now is going to be kind of like a watermark of where we're able to go in the playoffs. This is the weakest team in the NFC side of the playoffs right now is the Detroit Lions. And they're a good team. But the Falcons and the Cowboys and the Packers, those teams are a step above where the Detroit Lions are. So if we can't take care of business at home against the Detroit Lions, then I don't see us going to Georgia and having much luck against the Falcons. I don't see that happening at all. So there are all these things that we have to just figure out and make sure don't happen. The last one I have on this list of things that could just really royally mess our day up is defensive mediocrity. Now, the guys that we have on our defense have been part of one of, if not the greatest stretch of defense in the National Football League. To lead the league in scoring for 4 years in a row, almost 5. We almost did it again this year, but we didn't. because of some of this defensive mediocrity, that's an unprecedented run. That is a fantastic run. And it's all this core group of guys. You got your Richard Sherman, you got Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas if he was in, KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner. I mean, all these guys, and we added Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill, all these guys up front. So there are a lot of pieces. There's a lot of knowledge on this defense, but sometimes they come out and it's like they are moving the ball. The other team is just moving the ball on these guys. And you're like, how is this happening? Last week, watching the 49ers game, I'm like, is that Colin Kaepernick or is that Joe Montana? What is happening right now? How are they up 2 touchdowns on us so fast? I don't understand what's happening. And it's part of the slow start that happens, and they really lock it down sometimes. I mean, offenses in the NFL have an advantage, so you're always going to see scoring of some kind, and you're definitely going to – the Lions are going to score. They're going to score, and they're probably going to score a lot. If we keep them under 20 points, we win. If they start getting above in the 24, 25, 30 range, we might have some problems. So it's their job to keep Matt Stafford in this passing offense to right under that watermark that I just mentioned in order to really give us a chance to win this game. And with some of the defensive play that I've seen, it's been both sides of the spectrum this season. It really has. I remember the Cardinals game that ended in a tie, 6-6. That defensive unit can beat anybody in the National Football League. Anyone, anytime, anywhere. If they show up and they play like they did against the Cardinals in Arizona, I don't care who's there. I do not care. We win. It's over. Done. Book it. But if you show up like you showed up against the Saints, or you showed up like you showed up last week against the 49ers, or, any of these the Packers, my goodness. So there are these pockets of like, what is happening to this team? And there's all this locker room sort of, I don't know if it's tension that's going on. You've got your Richard Sherman thing with the reporter. I'm sure you've read about that. If you've not, I'm not going to talk about it because I think it's stupid. But it causes people to talk. And when people talk, the players listen. And when the players listen, it seeps just a little bit into sort of what it is, what it feels like to be in that locker room, to be in that group. And then losing a guy like Earl Thomas, who is a lot of the glue that makes the defense as a unit work. So, and we got guys to step up. Our roster up and down is great, especially on defense. It's deep. But you got to find a way to shake that mediocrity because that time is over in order for us to win. Now, you might think that was a lot of doom and gloom. It's like, wow, Drew, do you think the Seahawks are going to win? Well, as a matter of fact, I do. And there's a whole lot of reasons why I think that. I just needed to tell you that I see the same things a lot of you guys are seeing in terms of reasons why we might not. Reasons why the Seahawks very well could be out this round, out the next round, and not make a deep run like a lot of Seahawks fans are used to with this unprecedented run of success that we've had. And that run of success is one of the reasons that I have on my list here of why the Seahawks will win the game on Saturday night. There's a lot of playoff experience on this team. John Schneider and Pete Carroll have done an exceptional job of identifying the core players, the real franchise guys, and building them into a cohesive unit, especially on defense, to some extent on offense as well. And so these guys have playoff experience. This will be the 5th year in a row that we're going to the playoffs. You've got 2011 till now, so we're in. So not 2011, 2012. But there's so much knowledge from Russell Wilson, who has won a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl, and been in the playoffs every single year of his career. And then you've got all of these defensive guys, those guys that I mentioned, Richard Sherman, Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, all those guys that have had this defensive Like, they know what it means to play playoff football. And it is a different animal. It is. Like, regular season football is one thing. Playoff football is something else. And the players will swear up and down that every week's a championship week, and it's a championship mindset every week, and we don't prepare any different. And that's probably true. They probably don't prepare any different. But if you tell me that week 17 against the 49ers when the division is locked up is the same as Wildcard weekend in your own building, or NFC Championship, or Super Bowl, then you're lying to me and everybody else, because it's not the same. There's a different atmosphere. There's a different level of energy, just raw energy, top down in an organization when you're in the playoffs. And that's what makes it so exciting. Like, you win or you're out. You win or you're out. There's no series. There's no anything else. One game, winner moves on, or winner is the winner. And that's how the playoffs are. That's what makes the NFL excellent. It makes it fun. And so all of these guys know that. They have that experience. The Detroit Lions do not. They do not have that experience. I don't know when the last time the Detroit Lions made the playoffs was. I didn't look it up. I don't know. They haven't won the division since 1993. So they haven't won the NFC North since 1993. So there has been an expanse of time that they have not been in the playoffs. So Matt Stafford's going to be going in fresh. He's got that injury on his finger. Doesn't seem to hamper him too much, but it's got to be in his head a little bit. And so their experience is just not what our team is in terms of the playoffs. Another thing about our team, and another reason why we are going to win on Saturday, our roster, top down, is better than theirs. It's better. Ask anybody. Ask any NFL expert. Ask any person on the street not in Detroit. Whose roster is better, the Seattle Seahawks or the Detroit Lions? Quarterback, you got Matt Stafford. He's played great this year. He really has. He's not Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson's had his injuries. He's had his down days for sure. But Russell Wilson is the man. And if he's 100%, if he's full strength, if he's even at 80%, which I believe he's probably at 80% right about now, I'm sure there's some lingering injuries in that knee. And he gets beat up all the time with the way our offensive line is. So I'm sure something's always bothering him a little bit. 80% Russell Wilson, in my mind, equal match for the way Matt Stafford is playing right now. And if Russell Wilson's at 100%, that's better. But right now, I call that equal. I call that a wash. Let's see. Wide receivers, they got Golden Tate. Man, we know all about Golden Tate in Seattle, don't we? He's good. Like, he's going to wiggle. He's going to weave. He's going to get some yards after the catch. We know that about Golden Tate. They've got Marvin Jones Jr. He's their deep threat. He is their wide receiver. He was supposed to be wide receiver 1. He's kind of wide receiver 2. But he's sort of their, nobody can replace Calvin Johnson, but he's their Calvin Johnson replacement kind of player. We got Doug Baldwin. We got Jermaine Kearse, who's a playoff clutch machine. I mean, give Jermaine Kearse all the garbage you want, and I sure have this season. Sometimes he's looked awful. It's like, catch the ball, Jermaine. But what does he do in the playoffs? He catches the ball. He catches the ball in the clutch. So look for some of that to happen if we make a run, for sure. I'd love to have Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett's out. And tight end, we've got Jimmy Graham. We have got Jimmy Graham on our team. There are one, maybe two tight ends that you could say are better than Jimmy Graham. Rob Gronkowski, injured, not in the playoffs. And I don't know who the other guy I was thinking of, because we have Jimmy Graham on our team. He's amazing. He's excellent. And if we throw him the ball, he's going to do some work. Offensive line, they obviously have the edge there. But they don't have what I would consider to be one of the good offensive lines in the NFL. What else? Running back, right now they got Zach Zenner. He's played well. He's played really well. We got Thomas the Train Rawls. I like our odds there. I like them. I mean, we got Marcel Reese, fullback, who can catch the ball. Pretty soon we're going to get CJ Prosise back, who can catch the ball and run the ball. A lot of weapons. A lot of weapons on offense. You want me to do the defense now? Okay, I'll do the defense now. We win. Every level of defense of ours is better. They got Ziggy Ansah. We got Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. We got Jerron Reed. We got Cassius Marsh. We got Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright in the middle holding it down. We got Richard Sherman, best cornerback in the league. We got Cam Chancellor bringing the pain. Who else? Who do they got? Darius Slay? I mean, sure, they're NFL talent. They're NFL talent over on the Lions. But I know a lot of NFL players, people. I know a lot of them. I know them by name. I know them by number. I know their stats. I'm having a hard time thinking of Detroit Lions. I really am. And that's no fault to them. If you have a time period of mediocrity, and that's sort of what the Detroit Lions have had, then there's going to be some national indifference, which is sort of what I have. Now, not giving them the respect that they have due. They've got some good players on their team. But up and down, our roster is better. Significantly better. All right. You ready for the final reason why we are going to win on Saturday? Easy. The 12th man. There is no place else, not one place in the National Football League, especially in the playoffs, that is going to be harder to play in for an opposing team. That's why I wanted that number 2 seed so bad. Just to have that extra game, that bye for one. Bye would have been great. But that extra game in our building, and depending on who wins, maybe we go the whole way through. Maybe the Dallas Cowboys lose to the Green Bay Packers. Plausible. Or the Giants, whoever wins that game. But we didn't. But this is the one that we have for sure. This is our house. This is where our fans come out in droves. They pay way too much for tickets. They pay way too much for beer. They're so angry at that fact that they just yell. They yell for 4 quarters. They yell for 3.5 hours. Except for when we're on offense. And that's going to be what it is. So if you don't have any experience coming into the playoffs, you come off a crushing defeat to the Green Bay Packers, who stole the division away from you. They ran that table, just like Aaron Rodgers said they would, and they stole it. They stole it like a highway robber. They stole your division away. They thieved you. It's over. They stole it. So you're downtrodden from that, and then you fly to Seattle. You're used to playing in a dome. It's going to be what? 28 degrees outside when they play? Like, I don't know what's happening, but Canada's like breathing its nasty breath on us, and now we can't walk outside without freezing to death on the inside. It's the worst. But we're going to play. Richard Sherman will have his ninja mask on. You know what I'm talking about. It'll be great. And so they're coming in. They're cold. They don't know what to do. They can't hear. And they don't have the experience to win. I like those odds. I like them. That's all. That's it. Seahawks win this game. Now, could we get upset? Sure. Of course. It's the NFL. Anything can happen. That's why it's awesome. But based on those things, I think we're in pretty decent shape. So that's that. The next thing I'm going to do, something that I always do, of course, I'm going to pick games. There's only 4 because it's the playoffs. It's the most I'll ever have in 1 week. Now, if this is your first Neutral Zone Infraction Northwest podcast, first of all, welcome. Thank you for listening to me rant. But you're also thinking, pick games? Who's this guy? How does he get to pick games? How does he know who's going to win? Well, I don't know all the time, but I do pretty good. How good, you ask? Well, regular season, 151, 73, and 2. That's a winning percentage of .674. So, I'm right. More than I'm wrong, which is a good thing. So here I go, picking playoff games. First game in the Saturday afternoon time slot, the ever-loved Saturday afternoon time slot. We've got the Houston Raiders. No, the Oakland Raiders going to play the Houston Texans. So this game could have been a lot cooler. But quarterbacks have injuries. Derek Carr broke his leg. He's not playing. He's done. And he really was, like the quarterback is for any team, what made that Raiders offense what it is. And then the Houston Texans paid Brock Osweiler a lot of money in the offseason. Brock Osweiler sucked. They benched Brock Osweiler. Tom Savage came in, played some pretty good ball, got injured. In comes Brock Osweiler. So we've got Connor Cook, third string QB for the Raiders because their other guy got injured last week. And Brock Osweiler. If Brock Osweiler ever needed a chance to flip the script on his reality, now would be that time. The Raiders were in position to have the number 1 seed before Derek Carr got injured. And then, oh, how far the mighty have fallen. They're a wild card. They're a wild card spot. They did not win their division. Kansas City Chiefs came in and stole it from them. So that sucks. That sucks. I would not want to be a Raiders fan right now. How frustrating. You just go through a decade of just futility, and then you're like, yeah, we're good. And then your quarterback injured. Oh, no, we suck again. No, that would suck. That would suck a lot. But regardless of that, even though it's in Houston, even though they don't have a good quarterback, I'm picking the Raiders to win. Here's why. Brock Osweiler is garbage. He is not good. I think he's going to be all up in his own head trying to will that team to victory. He's going to throw 2, maybe 3 interceptions. The Oakland defense, they're not a great defense, but they got some studs. Specifically Khalil Mack. That guy can sack you, he can intercept you, he can run the ball in for a touchdown. He can tackle you for loss. He's good. And they got a bunch of other pieces around him too. And I think that Connor Cook can do enough to make the offense win. So I'm picking the Raiders. Picking the Raiders to win on Saturday. Saturday night, we all know I'm picking the Hawks. I just broke down why I'm picking the Hawks. I talked for half an hour about it. If you didn't catch that part, you weren't paying attention. Just rewind the video. Go back. It's good, I promise. Sunday afternoon, Dolphins at Steelers. This one's kind of an easier pick. The Dolphins, I don't know. Ryan Tannehill was supposed to be out for the season, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. And now they're thinking about making him play, but I don't think he's going to play. So I don't think Ryan Tannehill is going to play. The important thing to know is they're in Pittsburgh, another team with a few guys, specifically Ben Roethlisberger, that has playoff experience. And the other piece of that puzzle, on the offensive side, their offense is excellent. Their offense is really, really good. They got Antonio Brown, leading wide receiver, really, really good. And Le'Veon Bell, if he had not been suspended for the first 3 games of the season and had a chance to have those 3 games under his belt, I think he would be, and produce the way he produced the rest of the regular season, he would be an MVP candidate for sure. As it stands right now, the MVP field right now is lit. It's a lot of people with a lot of great stuff that they did. But as is right now, I don't think he's really in the conversation. But he has been super productive. He can do everything that a running back should be able to do. Catch the ball, run, he's patient, he gains yards in every way possible that you can gain yards. And I think that offense is going to ultimately prove too much in their own house for the Miami Dolphins to handle. So I'm picking the Steelers. All right, Sunday night. This should be a fun game. Giants at Packers. Now, the Packers swooped in, ran the table, and stole the NFC North away from the Lions. So they're playing at home. This game's in Lambeau Field. It's January, so those of you that don't know where Green Bay, Wisconsin is located, it's basically Canada. It's the very tippy top of the U.S. there in Wisconsin. It's Canada. So it's cold. It's cold there. And they're going to have a lot. The Giants are going to have a hard time. It's going to be a cold game. Now, the Giants do have a lot of good things going for them. Their defense is really the strength of that team right now. Their defensive line in particular, Olivier Vernon, even without Jason Pierre-Paul, who got injured and is not playing, that defensive line has been really, really solid for the Giants. And the secondary, too. The secondary has played excellent. They also have Eli Manning, who has a lot of playoff experience, who seems to go to the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots every time he's a wild card. So that is a plausible thing that could happen this year. If it happens and it's a Giants-Patriots Super Bowl, definitely rooting for the Giants, because that would be hilarious. Tom Brady, only 3 Super Bowl losses to the New York Giants and Eli Manning. I would love that. Although I'd love it less because the Seahawks weren't in it. But if that were to be the Super Bowl matchup, I would like it a lot. That being said, the strength of the Giants being their defense sort of doesn't counteract, really, but matches up well against the strength of the Packers, which is undeniably their offense right now. Their offense is playing scary, scary good football. Specifically Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how much run the table he has left in the gas tank, but if it's anything like he's played these past 6 games, that's scary for any matchup. That's really scary because he gets outside the pocket and he's throwing touchdown passes. He has a pocket to sit in all day most of the time because his offensive line is excellent. Really, they don't have a rushing game as much. It depends on how much Ty Montgomery's feeling like rushing that day. It seems like he goes off for 100 yards, then he does nothing. Then he goes off for 100 yards, then he does nothing. Packers also have Christine Michael, so maybe he'll hand him the ball and he'll fumble. We'll see. But the strength of that Packers team is their offense and their home field. That's going to really, really help them out too. Now, the big question marks that they have is that defense, specifically the back end. There's not a corner. I don't want to suit up for cornerback in Green Bay right now. Number 1, I can't play that position. I would never be able to do that in a million years. Number 2, they're all getting injured. They're all getting carted off the field. So that's not exactly a place that you want to go play cornerback right now, or safety, or defensive back at all. So there's a lot of ability for Odell Beckham Jr., Eli Manning to exploit that. And we'll see what happens. Sterling Shepard, too. Really great wide receiver for the Giants. So it should be really interesting. I think that Green Bay gets it done at home. And that's who's going to win that matchup. But this is a really compelling game, really good. I'm excited to watch it. So those are the 4 games. Raiders, Hawks, Steelers, Packers. Easy. We'll see what happens, but those are my picks for this week. And that's my podcast for this week. Thank you for listening. Remember, if you have questions, if you have feedback, if you want to talk to me for whatever reason, it doesn't have to even be about sports, you can tweet me at NeutralZoneNW or email me neutralzoneinfractionnw@gmail.com. Or you can comment on this video, like, subscribe, share, do all the social media things. Have fun watching football playoffs. Have fun. Stay warm. And thanks for listening.